The year was 1903. Annie Johnson was living in Arkansas with her two sons, and she was in a difficult situation. She was nearly out of money, and she had no special skills beyond reading and simple arithmetic. She was also in an unhappy marriage, and she was a black woman in a time of racial segregation. All of these factors seemed to be pushing her into a dead end. When Annie told her husband, William Johnson, that she was unhappy with their marriage, he admitted that he was not happy either. He had long wanted to go away and study the Bible. He said that God had called him to preach in Enid, Oklahoma. However, he did not tell Annie that he had met a minister's daughter in Enid who was single and attractive. Annie and William separated amicably. Annie kept the house, which was only one room, and William took most of the cash and went to Oklahoma. Annie was a tall, strong woman. She was determined to start over. She sent her beloved sons to live with other people. She said, "I looked back at the path I was on and I didn't like it. So I stepped off it and took a new one." Annie knew that she would not be hired at the cotton mill or the sawmill in the area. So she came up with a plan to make a living based on those two businesses. She planned carefully and kept it a secret. One night she put rocks in 2 buckets that weighed about 5 gallons each. She carried them for nearly 5 miles to the cotton mill. After resting for a while, she took out some of the rocks and walked another 8 miles in the dark on a dusty road to the sawmill. On her way back home, she dropped the rest of the rocks along the way. That night she boiled chicken and fried bacon. Then she kneaded dough and made meat pies. She didn't go to bed until nearly dawn. The next morning, she left the house with her meat pies, lard, a cast iron skillet, and coal for a fire. She arrived at a clearing behind the cotton mill near lunchtime. When the lunch bell rang, she added basil to the boiling lard. The aroma wafted to the workers who had just emerged from the mill, covered in white cotton dust and looking like ghosts. Most of the workers had brought their own lunches, but they were drawn to the smell of the hot meat pies that Annie had just taken out of the skillet. She wrapped them in greasy newspaper and sold them for 5 cents each. Sales were slow at first, but Annie was determined. She divided her time evenly between the two businesses. So if she sold hot pies at the cotton mill on day 2 and sold the leftover cold pies at the sawmill for 3 cents each, she would go to the sawmill first on day 3 to sell the fresh pies when the sawmill workers, covered in sawdust, appeared at the gate. In the years that followed, Annie never disappointed her customers, who came to expect to see the tall, dark-skinned woman hunched over a skillet, carefully turning each meat pie. When she felt certain that the workers were loyal customers, she set up a booth between the two businesses for them to eat at. She had truly stepped off the path that seemed to have been chosen for her and found a new path for herself. Many years later, the booth became a store where customers could buy anything from cheese, food, syrup, cookies, candy, pickles, canned goods, fresh fruit, soft drinks, to coal oil, and even leather soles for worn-out shoes. Each of us has the right and the responsibility to consider the paths ahead of us, as well as the paths we have already taken. If the future path is not bright or does not promise us anything, and we cannot turn back, we need to be determined and only bring the necessary luggage, step off that path, and turn to another. If the new choice is also unacceptable, don't be confused. Let's be ready to change it. Thank you so much for watching, and stay blessed.